Welcome and GM to the finest podcast on Solana, Soul Brothers, with the coziest part today: markets, prices, charts, and technical analysis, and everything in between. Welcome to another update on Solami. How's it going?
Yeah, man. Ready. It's the second week of January, and I'm excited to see where the prices take us. So, as you always put it, let's get into the coziest part of the podcast. I will pull up the charts. How are you feeling, Simon?
Not too bad. I'm observing what's happening here. There's definitely enough going on to talk about today. So we do have some interesting news, not only on the chart here, but also on the macro horizon and on Twitter. So for everyone that has missed a few of these news items, I think after today's quick briefing here, you know exactly where we're heading right now. In terms of news, in terms of prices, I can give you an idea. Let me give you an idea. Let's take a look at the charts here. We are looking at the 1 hour Solana chart right now. Solana's trading at $140 as of today on the 12th of January here. And we are definitely in a very strong resistance area here on the upside. We can see that we had several attempts of a breakthrough, basically, coming here, starting basically on November last year already. And since then, we've been trying to basically break through the $145 region for more than 4 times already. And now we did it again back here on the 6th of January 26th, and then now again today. So we got rejected again. That is a clear sign for me that the price is probably not gonna advance soon in that region. I think for the next days, for the following trading sessions, right now the US markets are not open yet. It is a new week, so we are expecting to see some volatility going on in the next, let's say, 5 hours here. But I think we might have topped locally, at least, again in this resistance zone. What does locally mean? Following the Elliott waves here, I think that we completed a 5-wave advance to the upside in this larger third wave, and we're right now working on this 4th wave correction. I would prefer another high before we break down further, honestly. Obviously, I don't prefer to break down, but I expect the price to tap into lower price regions again, which would be honestly not a bad thing if we do that, because looking at the long-term chart, which is here the weekly chart for me, this low down here, which would be even below $100 possible. It doesn't have to break below 100. It could just tap into the region of $100, but it definitely is feasible that we see prices as low as $90. Not next week, right? But I think in the first half or in summer 26, there's a chance that we might revisit these prices. The sooner we get there, the faster we could recover to new all-time highs, though, which might be a second half of 2026 play. This is a prediction. There's right now not strong evidence for this to be playing out, despite my wave counts right now that I assign larger than 50% probabilities, at least at this stage. So right now we're in this larger 4th wave. On the other chart here, this is the yellow 4 here, which is in the zone between $142 where we are right now and $206. So I think we see a small correction right now in the next trading sessions, and then we might see another advance that can all play out during this week, basically. And from there, I would prefer to see another pullback, because then I think chances are high that we do see another recovery. But in the short term, I do believe that, and it's starting right now during our session here while we're recording, the price is clearly being rejected up here and breaking down. So I think this wave here actually might be playing out right now. If that is the case, if the C wave in the 4th wave ABC structure started right now, then we're going to see prices lower than $133. before we might recover from the 0.5 FIB of this fourth wave here, potentially around 130 or even lower, right? We could go all the way to 123 and we could still go up. So there's going to be some volatility in the next trading sessions, but that is the current view I have on the Solana chart, to give everyone here a quick update on where the price is heading and how you could scalp and swing trade this without giving you, obviously, any financial advice.
Right. What are your general thoughts about where we are with the market as it pertains to BTC as an indicator?
I think we're in a similar situation here. We can also look at that chart. Obviously, Solana and Bitcoin have to move in the same direction on the weekly chart to an extent. There has never been a case where they decoupled, really. So there's a similar pattern playing out on the Bitcoin chart, where we're also on this fourth wave right now. We tapped into the resistance zone up here around $92,000. We went as high as 96, almost 95, but we didn't reach higher FIB levels in the fourth wave. And also here we tapped in this, like this zone down here, the support zone that is mainly coming from volume in this $80,000 range here. I had this on my chart since we topped in 126,000 pretty much, and we tapped into that zone, but I don't think it's done yet. Again, here's also a chance. While I'm like, this is obviously my primary scenario. The second scenario that has a probability as well is that we actually break through the $100,000 level in the next weeks, right, without breaking lower. But if that happens, I do think that we might be in a range. So that I think if we're not seeing another low in the next, let's say 8 to 12 weeks, then the next 3 months-ish, if we don't see another low forming over time, I think we'll be ranging for the better amount of this year on both the Bitcoin and the Solana chart, which would be boring. Just ranging instead of dipping one more time and then printing a new all-time high. I think we can right now retest the 55 moving average here. We broke through this, and right now you see it correlates. At least right now it correlates directly. It's a dynamic indicator, right? But right now it correlates directly with the 0.618 FIB level of this fourth wave here. So there's a very strong, and it's the $100,000 mark as well, psychological support. So there's a very strong zone. Maybe we'll see the recovery in February or something, until the zone even, right? And we break down then. Totally possible, right? That's totally possible that we retest this line. It wouldn't be the first time that Bitcoin is doing that, because as you see, the line always supported from the top, but it also supported from the low here. We like to retest that 55-week moving average. So we did that a few times, and I think there's a chance that we'll do it again now.
Okay. Well, there looks like there's hope at the end of the horizon. Are you feeling bullish for 2026, my friend?
I think it can be a good year. I think it can be a very good year. And we're going to talk about it today, and we're also going to talk about it in the other YouTube video that's going out, where we talk about some of the tailwinds for 2026 as well, on the regulatory front especially. So I think it has potential to be a good year, but let's be honest, right? It also started interesting. It started very shaky. So let's see where this leads us here in 2026.
Right. And that leads us to our first piece of macro news. You know that we love to couch all of the price predictions and the technical analysis, not financial advice, on real world events that are happening in the world. And so this first piece of news, it's a little bit of a longer video, but are you ready to watch, my friend? I think you know what's going on here.
I know what's going on, but that's for everyone that doesn't know yet. I think it's good to replay it quickly.
All right, so let's give the people what they want.
Let's go.
On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yeah, that got a lot of attention. That matter. the post from the Federal Reserve, the official post. I don't know how many million views we have now, but when I last checked, it was already at 10 million views or something ridiculous. So the algorithm is definitely working. Like if something blows up, it fucking blows up on Twitter right now. And this news is, I think, a perfect drama for us to talk about, and for crypto Twitter to talk about, and for the whole world to look on. Just like the TLDR, I can give like some historical background, but just from looking on the top, what happened? What the fuck? What's going on? Just reflect real quick on this news item here.
Yeah, I mean, Simon can provide more context as to why Trump and Powell have been fighting for years now, going all the way back to his first term. But what's happened recently, and why this has become such a big piece of news, is that this has never happened before. The Department of Justice has never gone after a chair of the Federal Reserve. And of course, Powell is in charge of setting the interest rates. So when you hear us talking about rate cuts, right, that decision is made by the Fed. And essentially what the Department of Justice has done is opened a criminal investigation into the head of the Federal Reserve to see whether or not he lied to Congress about the scope of renovations that are being done at the Federal Reserve headquarters, which I find extremely ironic, given the fact that Trump has full license to do whatever the fuck he wants over to the White House, even going so far as to demolish an entire wing of the building. But for whatever reason, he's found some sort of nitpicky excuse, some pretext to go after the head of the Federal Reserve. Could you share a little bit more about what the context is for this fight between Trump and Powell?
You already brought up a good word here to open the background story a little bit, because now today it's the first time that we see Powell fight back, really, because he never made any statements. He did that. I think it's not in his. He's not that type, and it's not in his strategy to engage in any political drama and fight. So he basically just observes and then does his duty. That's how I perceived him in the past. And sure, we had our issues with him as crypto community, because we just want our backs to pump. So that's obviously why Trump has been a blessing for the pro crypto wing, right? Completely disregarding anything else he does. For crypto and for price go up, we want rate cuts, right? But that is a very egoistical way to think about the world, because and Powell can't do that, right? He needs to look at it from all angles, and his goal is to have strong labor markets and a stable inflation rate, and he can use only very limited instruments to achieve that. And that's his task, and he does it to his best abilities and knowledge, and with well intentions. This is my opinion. He calls what just happened a pretext, as you also called it right now, for political pressure from the Trump administration to influence his monetary policy, specifically to lower the interest rates, because that has been an ongoing dispute between Powell and Trump, really. And this whole thing started back in June 2025 when Powell came up with a testimony where they discussed the Fed's $2.5 billion headquarters renovation in Washington. You might remember and recall some pictures, and even maybe they come up now on the timeline, with Trump and Powell touring the headquarters with construction hats, their yellow hats on their head. And that back then, I remember that time, Trump was already not a big fan of the project, and he called it costly and wasteful. You can have your own opinions on this. Obviously, the guy is also not the most resource efficient man on earth. I think it's insane what he's spending on military, by the way. But anyway, that's a completely different topic. So that all happened last year, and then now it seems like the whole topic comes up again for reasons. And the grand jury, they now basically looked into Powell's testimony. They cited potential misleading statements on the renovation and used this as a reason to subpoena the department or the Fed, or explicitly the chair of the Fed. Now, there's interestingly, I did some digging, and the media reactions are very pro Powell. Did you perceive that as well, by the way, on Twitter?
Yeah, of course. I think most people are on Powell's side. Yeah.
Yeah. So even I looked up some official sources in Reuters, CNN. They all call it an escalation of Trump's crusade against the Fed. Those are quotes the words that they use. Yeah, also the communities on Substack, on Reddit, they all seem, pretty on the fences in regards of how Trump just marches through things and tries to push his agenda through, because this doesn't look like it has anything to do with the testimony to be fair, right? So I think it's fair to call it a pretext for a larger agenda here. So yeah, I think honestly, that's to wrap this topic up. Here's just my take on this. I think it was a mistake from Trump. A strategic mistake. If his intention is to get low interest rates, this is not how you get it, because now you basically, you're just awakening the dragon. That's what, like, Powell is not the type of guy that is like intimidated. No, I think, and it's going to be like, okay, now I'm going to lower the interest rate. I think he is going to try with everything he has to do his duty even more right now, and maybe even to an extent that he would rather not lower interest rates only to engage in the fight now. But I don't even think he's that type of guy. I would probably do that. I'd like, fuck you, now I'm not going to lower the interest rates at all. But I think he would still do the correct decision if it's needed. But I don't know if right now chances for interest rates are not so high. There's no rate cuts expected for the end of Jan, I think.
Yeah, it scares me a little bit what happens if Trump succeeds, because we've mentioned it on this show time and time and again. The American government functions on separation of powers. It's very important that specific functions of the government remain independent. And traditionally, the Department of Justice was one such organization. Your general attorney is not supposed to be someone who works at the pleasure of the president. This is a person who, obviously is probably philosophically aligned with the president, because the president is the person who picks them, but ultimately has autonomy over the cases that they prosecute or don't prosecute. It's very clear in Trump's administration. We haven't seen this in a very, very long time. Probably, the last time we've seen this was back during World War II, when it was a total war situation. And the president did have a lot more sway over the Department of Justice. I don't know what it was called back then. But now we're seeing essentially wartime powers being applied in peacetime. And so now the president has successfully taken over the Department of Justice to the point where he gets to pick the cases that he wants the general attorney of the United States to pursue. And now he's trying to do something similar with the Federal Reserve. And I think that's something that's worth protecting, that balance of power.
Yeah. And that is just from a purely political point of view, right? And from a also moral point of view, how should you do politics in a democracy like the USA? But then besides that, you also have the blunt topic of, is this good financial, like fiscal policy or not, or monetary policy to be exact, to actually lower the interest rates? Like, is this actually, like, should he do that? Because I get why Trump wants that. There's a few reasons for it, but essentially he just says, okay, Powell, you're slowing down the economy. Just make everything more affordable. Cut rates lower, make mortgage rates for homebuyers cheaper. Make business loans cheaper. Just give us stimulus. Like, you can boost the economy even further. You're holding back growth, so that's basically what he's saying. Also, he wants to strengthen the US dollar, which is also suffering a little bit. And then there's a huge topic of loans that are maturing probably this year, next year, that needs refinancing. And with low interest rates, it's easier to refinance them for all kinds of businesses, especially commercial and real estate loans, obviously, here. So I think this is important. It might be even urgent to lower interest rates, but it all comes at a cost, right? Usually it's not a sign of strength when an economy has to lower interest rates to boost the economy and provide stimulus. It can backslash with exploding inflation and all kinds of things, trouble in the job market. So we'll see. I do expect this year to have more rate cuts, for sure. I think that's going to happen. But again, the odds for end of January rate cuts are set at like 10% or something. So very low.
Yeah, right. I mean, well, Trump wants to cut rates as close to zero as possible. We've heard him say in the past that he wants to cut rates 3 or 4 points, which is like fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I don't even think there's 4 points to cut anymore.
Right now we're at 3.75, I think. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
you'd be minus or at zero.
But anywho, yeah, you would make money at that point, borrowing money. But okay, anywho, that's what's going on over in Trump land, a criminal complaint or investigation, excuse me, into Powell's conduct, especially as it pertains to statements that he made to the Senate regarding the renovations of the headquarters of the Department of Justice. But of course, we have many other news items, Simon. And I think another item that we want to cover is, man, oh man, gold and silver prices. We're looking at a gold chart and we're looking at a silver chart right now, have exploded recently because of levels of uncertainty in the economy. Yeah, I mean, like, what do you make of all this, my friend?
I mean, I'm not a big commodity guy. I haven't really traded gold ever, but I think the past year was very huge gold accumulation already going on, and it's right now just continuing. And it doesn't help that we have turmoil macroeconomically and geopolitically. So I see gold on a rise for the next couple of years, I think, honestly. I don't think this is going to stop. There will be obviously short-term setbacks and so on. There you can do a proper TA on gold as well, if you want to trade that, but that's not for us to discuss here at Soul Brothers. But I think the long-term chart is up and to the right on gold and silver and commodities. What I'm interested in as well is to bring that shit on chain and provide more yield opportunities. So I think that's also going to make the asset very interesting because it's going to provide further use cases and liquidity. You can't underestimate that. It's going to take a while for significant liquidity to flow into these assets on DeFi, but I think 2026 is going to be a year of inflection for that.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to our friends over at Oro and Flash Trade. I'm pretty sure that you can leverage gold and silver over on the best perpetual trading platform on Solana. That is not the only chart that is up and to the right, Simon. What the fuck is this chart? What's going on here?
Yeah, that is actually insane. I'd love to see what's going on in the Wall Street of Caracas right now. I don't even know if they have that, if they got a Wall Street there. But this looks like a meme coin. What is it?
Yeah, it's the Caracas Stock Exchange, right, over in Venezuela. And it's showing the precise moment, you see this arrow right here, when ex-President Maduro was captured before he was flown over to the Southern District of New York to be tried for his crimes. He was already indicted by the United States and wanted. The United States simply executed that order, but albeit on foreign soil, something that we normally don't do. And holy shit, man, this is like a 3x from when he was captured, from 2,000 to 6,000 pesos, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the economy is taking it well, the whole situation. Trump today posted a picture on Truth Social where he declared himself president of Venezuela on Wikipedia or somewhere.
Oh my god!
I think, I think he's officially the president of Venezuela now, I guess. But yeah, you can make of this whatever you want, but the markets are pumping. And yeah, like 50% plus in a single session on January 6th is what I mean. That's insane. I think it's one of the wildest short-term moves that you can see in any market. Honestly. This is a stock exchange. It's not like everything is flying basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, removing Maduro from power definitely opens up the economy, I guess, and it will give more clarity for businesses to do proper business. And I think also they're just expecting now. There's a lot of hope in the market for a kind of positive regime change, and that's what investors are betting on, really, right? They're just starting to bet on regime change, better economic decision making when it comes to regulation and government, not so much insider shady business going on, plus sanctions being relieved from the country. There's been huge sanctions on Venezuela that have probably crippled the economy there over years. And now they might be lifted if Trump is the president of Venezuela. I don't think there's going to be sanctions on the country. So I think that is also probably very positive.
Yeah. Say what you want about Trump's decision to abduct, kidnap Maduro, but no one can deny that he was absolutely horrendous for the people of Venezuela. You and I have actually talked about this on previous broadcasts about how we have friends from Venezuela who actually had to leave the country, and not just them, but also their family members, just because the situation there has deteriorated to the point where it's just survival mode. People can't eat. People can't find medicine. People are expected to bring their own medicine to the hospital. And so there are quite a few people in Venezuela who don't really give a shit about how Maduro left power. They're just happy that he's gone. And so his
I understand that.
previous vice president, I think, is now the acting president, despite whatever Trump likes to post on Trump social. No, he is not the acting president of Venezuela, but
boring. Anyway, this is some of the stuff that's going on in this world. And if you enjoy the little news recap that you're getting from the Sol Brothers, then give us a follow on YouTube. Head over to Sol Brothers Pod on YouTube, and we're posting usually twice a week about technical analysis on Solana and some macro updates from the markets. So you will get a fresh one like this again end of the week, but this has been your week opener. And if you want to get more info about Solana and everything that's going on in the ecosystem, then also watch the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one. Live stream, you stay with us. This is Sol Brothers with Simon and Eno, where it is our job to throw you into the Solana rabbit hole and show you around in our exciting ecosystem.
Our mission is to take you on the latest and greatest so that you never run out of fun things to talk about. Simon, it's a big week.
Big week. Huge week, I want to say. There's a lot of news on the agenda today that we can cover when it comes to Solami, our favorite L1 and the one and only you really need. And we're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about new jobs on Solana. We're going to talk about ETFs. We're going to talk about ICOs, our ICOs back. Yep. And we're also going to talk about cash tax, whatever the fuck that is. But there has been some announcements from official accounts, including X, about a new thing they're launching. So that is definitely something that deserves a deep dive. But what deserves even more deep dives is the upcoming Clarity Act. So all that is going to be part of today's agenda. Where do you want to start, my friend?
Oh, of course, we're going to start with Solana by the numbers, where we detail the most bullish numbers about the Solana ecosystem. And of course, the first thing that we want to talk about is jobs on Solana. So if you go over to jobs.solana.com, our friend Paul, who is the head recruiter over at Solana Foundation, he helps people navigate jobs across the entire ecosystem. He says there's over how many jobs, Simon? Over 500. That's nuts.
Damn. There's a lot of demand. I feel like we need people. Where's everyone?
Yeah. Do you feel like you have a hard time hiring sometimes?
Yeah, that's the hardest part for any entrepreneur. It's one of the biggest challenges you have as a founder, is to hire, because it's not like you can go shopping and you pick someone up and you just take him or her. It's very strategic. You have to, because you don't want to work with anyone, right? You want to have the creme de la creme for your business and for your endeavor. As a good founder, you have very high standards. and it's tough to find these people because the really, really good people, they're either already working for themselves or they're working for someone else. So you gotta, it's tough. It's tough.
I mean, how bullish is it that we have someone who works at Solana Foundation whose literal job is just to make sure that other, projects on Solana get top tier talent?
Yeah, that's actually useful. I mean, we need an HR department, right, for Solana companies, and yeah. So jobs.solana.com is actually a great job board for everyone that wants to find a job. And if you need a better intro to something, you can also talk to the Sol Brothers, because we have also direct lines to teams like Super Team Talent that can also hook you up and facilitate the job for you, the job of getting a job, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only are job positions available, but there are also other really bullish numbers on Solana. So another one that we'd like to discuss is historic ETF flows. And this week, we had $41 million in net inflows, which brings total net inflows to over $800 million into Solana. This is all coming from off-chain sources. That's huge. But at the same time, we've seen, outflows from BTC as well as Ethereum ETFs. So that's quite interesting. Out of all the ETF types, it seems like Solana is the only one with inflows. What does that tell you, Simon?
Well, yes, I'm biased here, but obviously, yeah. Okay, let me try to give an objective analysis of the situation. I think the objective analysis is that it's new. Solana is kind of new for TradFi right now still, and for institutions. And we come with a very strong thesis that everyone gets. Like, you saw that clip last time. Stupid question. You were with me here. You remember that clip last time when we talked about the new Morgan Stanley ETF that just launched for Solana. And there was a lady from Morgan Stanley, I suppose, that talked about this on CNBC. And she was all about tokenization here and RWAs there and tokenization here. And that happens on Solana now. So I think that thesis is trickling through the offices, and it is a very good sales pitch for everyone. We're building financial markets 2.0. It's called internet capital markets. That term has been coined by Solana, and this is happening on Solana. And we have proof already for it. We have companies that are doing it. We're pretty much tokenizing everything from uranium over commodities to fucking watches. Everything I said right now is being tokenized on Solana, and you can build a narrative around it very easily. And ETFs need that they are narrative vehicles, right? They're narrative driven because they are for people that don't really want to do the digging. They just want to get exposure real quick. And that includes retail and asset managers alike. Even the asset managers don't, give a shit about how Solana works as a blockchain, right? They also don't give a shit about how the hardware in your phones is being made, but they still want exposure to semiconductor companies, right? But they don't know how they don't know about anything about the hardware and how a semiconductor is being built. But they get the narrative, right? There's going to be AI booms. There's going to be demand for chips. And that's why we're going to buy semiconductor businesses. Solana is essentially the same narrative, just for internet capital markets. So I think that's why we see so much inflows. And we're going to see much more this year. That's going to be a huge driver in institutional demand again.
Oh, yeah. But, off-chain international capital market, international lol, off-chain inflows into internet capital markets are not the only source of revenue, of course. Not revenue, excuse me. Sauce. I'm really, the sauce of revenue. That isn't the only source of capital formation. Of course, we also have on-chain methods, and our favorite on-chain method, or at least the one that I'm paying the most attention to, is MetaDAO. So over the weekend, MetaDAO had a ICO for Ranger Finance. Ranger Finance is a perps aggregator, so you can think of it as Jupiter, but for perpetuals. And they raised $86 million, Simon. Holy motherfucking shit! That is a lot of money.
They didn't raise.
Well, they got 86,000. They got 86 million in commitments, and how much did they actually take away?
eight. So
yes,
but that's actually a very good point, because a lot of people have a misconception about this whole ICO on MetaDAO, right? You look at these projects. Ranger now raised 8 mil. They wanted to raise 6. Solomon raised 8 mil. They wanted to raise 2. We have Umbra. They also raised, I think, 3 mil. Essentially 3.5 they wanted to raise 2. So these guys had over commitments of 1000+%, all of them, right? Like I remember Umbra, we had crew on the show on Soul Brothers, and they were overcommitted by 152 million dollars, right, on the ICO. So here's the important part to get. These are not investments in the ICO. These are commitments to receive pro rata shares of the final amount, right? So if you see as an investor that the minimum raise is 6 mil, then you expect them to close at maybe maximum 10 mil, right? Everything else would be weird, would be a bit greedy. If you oversubscribe and then you're like, okay, we wanted minimum 6 and now we're taking 12, it's like, okay, but why do you need double, right? Like why don't you check what you said is required, which is 6? So I think they can't, like, this is always a good, whenever someone raises on MetaDAO and you see, okay, the minimum is 2 million, then slap another plus minus 2 mil, right, on it. Only plus, not minus. 2 mil on it, and that could be the final thing they raise. So the same happened here. So they will never accept 80 million or 100 million. That means as an investor, when you clip in the biggest wallet that invested here in Ranger, probably put in like $1 million or something. Yeah, I think it was more, by the way. And that whale, by the way, also invested a fairly big chunk in the other ICOs, same wallet. And he also made, I think, $300,000 P&L on Avicii, because if you clip in a very large amount of into the subscription and then it oversubscribed, you also get the bigger chunk of the pro rata shares, right, of the final amount, but you get a lot of your money back. The biggest chunk you get back, right? So that's why I say it's not an investment. It's not even a commitment, right? Because you're not. You know that you're going to get a lot of that money back that you're clipping in. It's just you're reserving the pro rata for the actual raise, right? So that you get a bigger chunk. Because if I invest $500 in the Salomon sale, right, or in the Ranger sale, I only get, like, I can't do the math in my head, but I get like a tiny percentage of the actual ICO amount, because I get pro rata on $500. The difference between 86 mil and 8 mil, how much they essentially raised, right? So that's why we see these playing out so well. And I did the same mistake initially when I saw the first ICOs happening on Meta. I was like, damn, where's $150 million coming from? Where's, like, these people are investing that much in ICO? No, they're not going to give $150 million to a company. They're just betting on the pro rata shares.
I still think it's really impressive, though, that people are willing to theoretically commit that amount, because it just goes to show how much capital is actually available, right?
That is
the liquidity is there, and MetaDAO has smashed it out of the park. I actually have a tweet, something I wrote recently. I think that if we do have a chance at another unicorn runner of a token, I think that there's a non-zero probability it comes from MetaDAO's launchpad. Just based on the track record of what we've seen so far in terms of the quality of the projects that they're picking, as well as the rate and the speed at which they're doing it. It's very impressive. Millions and millions of dollars raised for top tier builders. It seems to be one of the default ways to raise capital on Solana now. I'm pretty proud and impressed by what both Profit and Colin have achieved.
Yeah, future key is a good concept. The execution is, well done as well. They're backed by credible investors like Colosseum are behind them and some others. So it's a innovative project and good, interesting solution to the ICO problem. And also it has a good track record already. Are there considerations when it comes to downsides? Sure. There's like a few things that are okay to criticize on Ranger, or not Ranger, sorry, on MetaDAO. And the concept. And one of them is that you're saying top talent is being attracted to these launches. But also, I think there's a case, it doesn't have to be a rule, but top talent also likes to have control over the treasury and don't give it away to the market. That's just one point. So like really good founders with like 5 exits, and they did it all, they know everyone. They wouldn't launch in MetaDAO because they're like, okay, but then I I can't control my treasury myself. I'm a founder. I should, I have the biggest balls in the room here. Like I want to control my treasury. Like these investors trust me. My VCs trust me. So they just call up their VCs, right? And they're like, I can get the money there. And I'm gonna if I need to do something with my treasury and I need it in 5 minutes, I'll do it, right? I don't need the market to decide that. So I think, but there might be it's a different side of kind of company, really. I think we're creating a different kind of company with these MetaDAO companies, and they can work really well. But it's
Remains to be seen, of course, in 2026 and onwards, how this concept of unruggable ICOs unfolds. But for now, very promising initial results. And now, Simon, of course, now that we've talked about Solana by the numbers, of course, the tech on Solana is good. So let's go through these really, really cool upgrades, or not upgrades, but things that we're seeing on Solana and Twitter, my friend.
Yes, sir. So the first one we got are smart cash tags, not crash tags. I always read crash tags when I go into it. They link tickers to smart contracts right on X. Nikita Beer, our favorite person of the week on crypto Twitter, the head of product at Twitter, announced the feature which will financialize Twitter or X. He says that X is the best source for financial news, and hundreds of billions of dollars are deployed based on things that are being said on Twitter, which is, it's true. This feature will ensure that prospective buyers are actually buying the right token that they intend to, which is a great feature considering how many scams are in crypto. So this helps you to stay safe out there. And you can see how it works on the screenshot. Basically, you just type in your token on Twitter, and then there's this little pop-up that pulls up that will display you the contract addresses even of these tokens. So you can make sure, okay, I'm talking about the right thing. I'm buying the right thing. Cool.
Yeah. And next up, Rain, a stablecoin company providing universal access to on-chain rails, just raised $250 million. Rain's announcement details a Series C raise at a $1.95 billion valuation led by Iconic Capital and joined by Sapphire Ventures, Dragonfly, and others, marking over $338 million in total funding and a 17x increase in valuation in just 10 months. Key growth metrics include a 30x growth in active cards, 38x growth in annualized payment volume to $3 billion. Holy shit. And partnerships with over 200 entities. Rain emphasizes seamless stablecoin integration for global enterprises. We're well on our way to making a tokenized programmable money mainstream.
Damn, they're powering a lot of the crypto debit cards where you can spend the crypto that you're earning from working in crypto, for example, on Super Team Earn, which is the best way to earn your first crypto. And right now, the platform offers an additional $2 million in funding to support the next generation of prediction market apps. And I'm talking about Kalchi, because they actually decided to put up grants on Super Team Earn for pro users, which is really cool. Successful applicants will get API access to hundreds of markets and liquidity, monetization with builder codes, and grant funding to work on your very own project. So if you want to build with Kalchi, then you should head over to earn.superteam.fun and check out the grant.
And last but not least, folks, just a little bit more bullish news on Solana. Solana is the home of tokenized stocks. We're starting the new year off right. DeFi Llama shows that Solana is now the home for on-chain equity, coming in first place with over $800 million in TVL. Ethereum is in second place with approximately $400 million in tokenized stocks, just about half that. Internet capital markets aren't only for on-chain capital formation, but are also a source of net new inflows for traditional companies as well. So Simon, doesn't really matter whether or not you're trying to raise for a project with tokens using unruggable ICOs, or if you're trying to bring TradFi inflows into on-chain inflows into TradFi assets like stocks, you can do it all here on Solana.
Very cool. I'm very bullish on this for 2026 as well. We're going to see much more liquidity on X stocks and Remora markets coming this year. Pretty sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. What else is bullish for crypto,
Well, I don't know if this is bullish or not, but, a lot of people are talking about it, and it is the name of our podcast today. And so what we're going to be covering for our deep dive on today's podcast is, of course, the Clarity Act. The U.S. Senate will be voting on it in 2 days on December 15th. That is a Wednesday, American time, the Crypto Clarity Act. What do you know about it, Simon? What can you tell us?
Did you say December? That's my
January.
first-
Sorry, I meant to say January 15th. I apologize. Sorry, I'm still in 2025.
Living in the past, my friend. Yeah, the Clarity Act. I think it is also called the Payment Stablecoin Act, and it's widely discussed these days. I think it definitely it is one of the items, one of the reasons why 2026 could be a good year. It could be. I think it can be a potential bullish signal because it regulates stablecoins, right? And we have seen a lot of. It started with Luna, and we've seen a few other ones. If you remember that, like, I'm sorry, because there was a bad time back then. I remember that day when what was it? UST was it called?
Yeah,
UST?
UST. Right.
Yes, when UST depacked and everyone was like, "Okay, this is it," and it was it. there was a death sentence for a few days for crypto. But yeah, algorithmic stablecoins are actually excluded from that act. For example, like this basically says that if you don't have full backing, right? If you don't have if you're not an issuer that has reserves in safe assets, for example, in cash or treasuries, or, so if you're not like the classical USDC, then you don't have permission to act, especially at least not on US ground and in US apps and for US consumers. So the whole idea is to protect consumers from shady reserves. But while this is very good, I think, and I also think that this will potentially bring in a lot of probably trillions in on-chain liquidity, because it just makes it opens the doors for players that are not yet on Solana, right, with their liquidity. So it could bring TVL, and what brings TVL brings activity on chain, and what brings activity on chain makes money for the blockchain, and if the blockchain makes money, Sol goes up. So I think it could be a bullish catalyst. The only thing I'm a bit concerned about, but that's more the cypherpunk in me, is that it's not so great for DeFi, I guess. Does it make sense? Like, it's not so... too much. It will bring the serious players closer to Solana, and the more experimental DeFi ideas, they will get kicked out because it will stifle innovation to an extent. Does that make sense? Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the actual details of the bill, which I did not have time to read. But let's get a general sense of how some people are feeling. We definitely have people on both sides of the aisle, and so we have a very beautiful video from the Chief Investment Officer of Bitwise, which is of course the company that issues BSOL, which is the biggest Solana ETF. So let's hear it from the CIO of Bitwise.
Like the Punxsutawney Phil of crypto of this winter. I think if Clarity doesn't pass, it's going to push us into a deeper, it's going to be hard for crypto to rally. I think if you do see it pass, that's probably something like the all clear signal on this pullback, and we could see, I think, most assets, and particularly ETH and Solana and others, move to all-time highs.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's quite interesting. We have someone who's in the know and is definitely if you call him anything, he's an institutional player who's rallying for the Clarity Bill. Coinbase also used to be on side for the Clarity Bill, and even people on X are saying things like decision day on the Clarity Act this Thursday, important day for crypto. Tell me all the reasons why this can pump the market. So obviously, there are people who are bullish on this, as Simon rightfully pointed out. But of course, we have people on the other side who are echoing exactly Simon's concern about what this means for DeFi. Mr. Smock says, the Clarity Act is a Trojan horse. Banks are lobbying Congress to require devs to KYC DeFi front ends, and they're pushing for an only accredited custody services like Coinbase, which can hold crypto, so no more private wallets. The Republicans lied. They are not pro-crypto. So that is another legitimate concern that we have, is that within this bill, the CFTC is going to get a lot more teeth to enforce the rules that they want to see and list the assets and approve the protocols that they want. And in that process, we might have just killed the cypherpunk in Solana, especially as it pertains to DeFi experimentation, because whatever the Americans want kind of tends to be where the rest of the world goes, because that's where the money is. So I'm a little concerned as well, actually. I'm actually more concerned than I am bullish about the Clarity Act.
Yeah, I think short-term price action will be good. Right now, I think also the chances that it will pass in 2026 at least are higher than 50%. So that is probably already being priced in to an extent now as well. It has been already priced in. I think the Clarity Act was something they've been bringing this up since 2-3 years by now. So it's not like a new thing, but it's just right now it's the furthest it ever got in the whole process of being approved, right? So I think on Polymarket right now you see bets going, the 70%. Yeah, that's okay. That's Kalchi before May 1st, for example. So pretty high chances that this thing is gonna go through. There's a side of me definitely that's a bit afraid and that's a bit scared that this could change our whole crypto as we know it, like over the course of like 1-2 years. It's not going to be approved, but over the course of 1-2 years, it could kind of wash out more of the DeFi plays, more of the interesting things that we're so bullish about, and it would bring institutions and regulated services and more apps that just feel not. It's okay if you feel TradFi, because that's probably not a bad thing, user experience wise. But if you take away the permissionless nature, the sovereign nature of crypto, a few of the big pros that we have why we're doing this, then it becomes a bit risky, right? But I guess what they can take is the financial Lego blocks that DeFi enables, which is still a nice feature. Like that's gonna at least we're gonna make the worst thing that can happen, I think, is that we're going to make financial markets just a shitload more efficient and quicker, right? You can move money from left to right much quicker. You pay less fees. Everything is fast and cheap. Literally what Solana is all about, and easily fragmented across different kind of yield sources and so on. So I think that's going to maintain the same Clarity Act, yes or no, which is good. But more the cypherpunk value sets that they are probably at risk with this whole thing. And yeah, I have like, if you have a take on this, let me know. But I have I read another take on Twitter that I think is really interesting when it comes to stable coins. Have you heard about this, the Venezuelan tether and what happened to it?
No. Are you talking about the freeze with Tron?
Yeah, you can guess it. Like it's there was obviously a lot of tether that was used by Maduro for the oil, and it was settled on Tron. And then at least I read a tweet. I didn't fact check it, but it says the US made a phone call, Tether froze the wallets. Probably it's a longer story, but that's essentially what happened. So the money is frozen, and this basically says that okay, USDT, especially here, is the target, but broader stable coins in general, the ones that we have right now, they are definitely better than what we have so far because they're fast and quick and they can go across the borders and so on. That's great. That's a good value proposition. But they are not sovereign. They're useful, but they're not sovereign, right? They can be frozen at any given moment. You can just, they can be taken away from you. Not like the crypto that we envisioned. So that's kind of a little concern, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's nothing to do with the Clarity Act, though. The USDT and the Tether organization has actually worked in concert with the American authorities time and time again. In fact, I've been fact checked by Cash multiple times. Apparently, I don't know if this is still true, but what he told me last year was that Tether actually does a better job of cooperating with the American authorities than Circle does with USDC. And so Tether is, even though people like to think of it as like the crime stablecoin, they are willing to freeze millions and millions of dollars upon the request of the American authorities, as long as the request is, they deem reasonable. Whereas Coinbase seems to, at least in the past, has been a little bit more protective of USDC holders. Yes, I mean,
and it's not a bad thing per se. It just basically feels like a bank again. Like the whole the system where people just it's not your money really if someone can freeze it, right? It's not your wealth, right? And And here's a bull case for other cryptos. That means that, what do you think other big nations that are trying to maintain sovereignty over their oil money will do? I don't think they're going to keep their money in stables now. If they observe this happening in real unfolding, I think they're going to buy Bitcoin. Just like bluntly predicting to this. Like I just think there's going to be a lot of people buying shitload of Bitcoin now because you can't freeze Bitcoin wallets.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty decent prediction. I'm not entirely sure what people will do, but that seems like a very plausible outcome. That people decide to protect their ill-gotten, well-gotten, rightfully gained oil money. I'm not quite so sure what to call that. But Simon, we're gonna close out, of course, with sponsored news. We have the wonderful Solflare, SNS, and Flash Trade to thank for allowing us to do this podcast. Without their support, it would not be possible. So, of course, we're going to start with our first sponsor, Solflare, right? They have 24/7 real human support. Getting help should not be a puzzle, and you shouldn't have to fight with a chatbot. I think that's great. You want to get a response from a real human in 30 seconds. What's that Paul Graham quote? Do things that don't scale.
Well, I don't know if that's a great quote for a huge company like Solflare. I think they should do things that scale, but I'm pretty sure they have a very effective and efficient team on the ground somewhere. I actually tested it a few times and it works really well. You can go on solflare.com, you can hit a little chat box, you literally get help in like a minute, I think. Any time of the day, like wherever I am. So that's really cool. And it's really a human that talks to you.
Yeah, no, that's actually really, really nice. Solflare again is if you look at all the small details of how they run their company, they're running more like a traditional fintech than they are a Web3 startup. And for my wallet, honestly, that's what I want. I want something that feels uber professional. And yes, of course, I want to talk to a real human. But it's not just Solflare that has interesting news. SNS also has released a new feature, which is to find your search domain with AI. Do you know anything about this feature, Simon? This is quite interesting.
Yeah, I already saw that the other day. I touched on it briefly on Thursday, and yeah, basically just like AI enhanced domain search, and yeah, it makes it easier to find your domain. We already see it on other domain providers, by the way, like Web2. They already have this AI stuff going on. So yeah, you can browse for your domains much easier. But I think we're going to have some bigger things to talk about as well for SNS in the next 2-3 weeks. Huge things, if I want to say so.
Yeah, huge. But there's also a game, Simon. So they have this AI search game. They're putting up 500 USDC $500 worth of SNS, and essentially they want you to find the prompt that generates nameforge.sol. And if you could successfully figure out a prompt that generates that domain, then you will win a share of $500 USD worth of SNS.
Interesting. And I guess you can't use the word nameforge for the.
I guess you can.
All right then. Challenge accepted. We should try it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give it a try, guys.
And last but not least, Flash Trade is going to be using ephemeral rollups to enable 200 assets on Flash Trade. I honestly already thought that they had more than 200 assets on Flash Trade because they're onboarding new assets all the time. But now, obviously, they're doubling the amount of assets with 0 gas, 0 transaction fees, and 0 account fees.
That's crazy, by the way. That is like huge. It's actually, I think it's actually happening. We've been talking about this whole margin engine V2 in the Flash Trade Discord and everywhere since like half a year. And I think it's actually happening soon. Like it's insane, honestly, to have 200 assets trading on a perp dex on Solana. And I think they're going to be super quick in listing shit. So like whenever there's a token that is, gaining attention, they can just bring it on Flash Trade. You can trade it on perps. On leverage. So that's pretty crazy. And it will also make the LPing more efficient, because essentially how it works is basically that you can tap in every liquidity pool, or basically it's a shared liquidity pool for all assets. That's the big change that we're seeing, and that is making this possible. So yeah, stay tuned for when it's going to be live. I think I'd give it a few weeks, but I don't think it's going to be too long anymore.
Yeah.
Big news.
Okay. Well, that's it for our weekly roundup of the latest and greatest on Solana. Thank you very much for tuning in. Simon, tell the people what they got to know.
You gotta know that you find us on YouTube and on X, on Instagram, and actually on Twitter, on fucking TikTok as well, at Sol Brothers Pod. So check it out, give us a follow, especially on YouTube, so that we can grow the audience and ship better content in 2026. And we have some very interesting content ideas coming up for this year. So give us a subscribe and like the video as well. And thanks for watching these Sol Brothers, and we'll see you next time when it's time for the next latest and greatest on Solana. See you then. Noise.
Yeah.
I think your X is broken. You're not streaming to your X audience, by the way. I think
Yeah, my premium is not working. I'm actually actively
Ooh.
resolving that with X support, and they're just not.
Oh,
I paid
good
for
luck.
it, and then, dude, I paid for. I'm so pissed. I paid for it, and they're not giving it to me, and I'm just kind of like,
What?
how can you
What's
do
up?
that? How can you charge my credit card and not give me my
That's
premium?
weird.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that's like
It's fucked.
fucking Twitter.
That's robbery.
Right now, yeah, right now Twitter is on a bad. I mean, they have insane growth numbers, but they are in a bad sentiment spot right now. So negative. Everything is so negative. I don't know what you guys think about it right now, but I think it's extremely toxic. Nikita is being fucked in the arse. Not gonna lie. Poor man. Anyway, live stream folks. Thanks as well for tuning in, by the way, the ones that are here. So we're gonna wrap it up as well. I think we don't have anything else here for you guys to tap into. So everything has been said. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you at the next one.
All right.
Bye bye.
Adios.
Ciao, cacao.